Welcome to the MotoNoob USA. This video is a DIY step-by-step on how to take the wheels off and reinstall the wheels on your CRF 300L. I'm going to start with the front wheel, and the first thing I'm going to do is break loose the pinch bolts. The pinch bolts don't have to come completely out, just break them loose like you see here. Next, I'll be using a 12mm Allen socket to break the front axle loose. Notice that I'm doing this while the motorcycle is still on the side stand. This provides far more stability than if the motorcycle was already on the jack. Even with that, I had to hold the motorcycle while breaking the axle bolt loose. Warning, I do not recommend power tools for this procedure. Now we're going to move to the back wheel. I took a moment to take some pictures of the position of the alignment blocks. This is for reference in case I decide to adjust the chain tension. Next, I'll be using a 24mm socket to break the rear axle nut loose. While not necessary, you could use an impact wrench here. Just don't take the nut completely off. Now we're ready for the jack. I'm using a Harbor Freight transmission jack. But whatever the method, the goal is to get the weight off of both wheels. With the weight off the wheels, I can now take the axle out. With my 24mm on the right hand side and a 17mm on the left hand side, I remove the nut off the axle, then the alignment block, and then pull the axle out from the left side. With a 10mm socket, I then remove the rear bolt from the chain guard, loosen the front bolt, allowing the chain guard to hang down. This gives me the slack needed to get the chain off the sprocket. With the chain out of the way, the wheel is ready to be removed. As a precaution, I like to place a piece of cardboard between the brake pads. This will ensure that the brake pads remain separated in the absence of the rotor. And finally, I reassemble the axle assembly components in the order that they came out for safekeeping, including the spacers that I forgot to mention that will likely fall off as you take the wheel out. And now for the front wheel. Using your 12mm Allen socket, continue removing the already broke loose front axle bolt. Be sure to hold the front wheel as you're pulling the bolt completely out. The front spacers also have a tendency to fall off. Reinstall the front axle bolt with the spacers on it for safekeeping. And finally, the optional cardboard between the front brake pads. Reinstalling the wheels is pretty straightforward. It's just taking them off in reverse. You need to have the spacers in place before you move the wheel into position, and then hold them in place as you guide the rotor between the pads on the caliper. It's also important to note, while installing the axle bolt, it should be turned by hand until you're confident that it's threading properly. And then just run it in until it's snug and leave the pinch bolts loose. And now let's move to the back wheel. Of course, first you want to remove the axle bolt and components from the swing arm, assuming that's where you stored them for safekeeping. Next, you want to place the spacers on the hub of the rear wheel, making sure that they're properly seated. Now you can move the rear wheel into position. And just like the front wheel, make sure that the rotor is aligning between the brake pads on the caliper. Meanwhile, on the left side, hold the chain to ensure that it is going in the proper position as well. Now, place the chain on the sprocket, making sure that it's properly seated. Next, install the axle bolt and alignment block through the left side. Push it all the way through till the alignment block is seated on the swing arm. Moving to the right side, install the alignment block and the lock nut. Using a 17mm wrench on the left side and a 24mm socket on the right side, go ahead and snug up the axle bolt. And of course, don't forget to reinstall your chain guide. Before you put the weight back on the wheels, be sure that the alignment blocks are all the way up against the alignment bolt. Now it's time to put the weight back on the suspension. Before you torque the nut down, this is a good time to check your chain tension. The instructions for this procedure are on the chain guard. The tension on my chain looks good, so I'm going to move on to torquing the front and rear axles. I'm using the 12mm hex to torque the front axle bolt to 51 foot-pounds or 69 Newton meters. Now I can torque the pinch bolts to 21 foot-pounds or 29 Newton meters.
Silence it all up and do an overdub.
Of course, my kid and the dog have to crash the party.
Are you still recording? Yeah. The camera caught that, didn't it?
Really?
What are you doing? What are you doing? What are you doing?
And finally, with a 17mm wrench on the left side, torque the rear axle nut to 65 foot-pounds or 88 Newton meters. And that's how you do it. Thanks for watching and ride safe.